Hey, everybody. We're so excited you're here joining us today. First of all, I want to know where everybody's joining from. Feel free to turn on your cameras because this is going to be a conversation interactive session. So if you're comfortable, feel free to turn on your camera or give us a thumbs up. And if you can go ahead and post in the chat where you're joining from. I see Dallas. I'm here in Montana. I think we have some people in California, San Diego area. Ooh, Des Moines. Oh, hey, Belle. So excited to have you. Josh in San Diego, Idaho. Wow, we're almost coast to coast here. Minnesota, Morse, California, San Diego, New York City. Welcome, everybody. Well, we're so excited to have you for a flight planning session today. And we're really grateful that we have a community expert as our CEO who was able to create this really great editable PDF where you can create your own flight plans. And what this really is going to help you do is think through your strategy and plan for engaging your community all year round. It can seem like a very daunting task at first when you think about all the different types of activations that you may already be doing and maybe wanting to switch things up. So this is really just a systematic way to help you think through those options, what people hope to gain so that you can build out your own strategy for community development. That's the whole point of this. And it really also will just kind of help you think through how your events can connect the dots between a lot of the other activations that you might be doing across your organization. So if you scroll down just a little bit below this video, it unfortunately is white text on white background for some reason, but you can download the flight plan so that we can work through it together. I will screen share here in just a little bit so you don't have to download it and still see what we're talking about. But if you want to have that as a resource, you can download it just below this video. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you guys can see what the flight plan looks like. And then I encourage you to jump on camera with me. We saw Javier jump on just a little bit ago, so feel free to jump on as this is intended to be a conversation so that we can share ideas together. All right, so as we're going to walk through our flight plan here today, some of the top information, number 1 and 2, are just information based on your organization. So your name, your organization. Every organization should have a mission statement. If it doesn't, that's a bigger discussion that we should have. But you generally can find these on your company's website if you don't already know it. So you would fill in what your mission is. What is your why? Why do you guys exist in the first place? What is that core mission? And then your vision for your community, maybe what you hope to gain for your members. Is it knowledge sharing? Is it resource sharing? What is your vision for your community? And then this is where we're really going to get into the meat of this plan, and where I encourage you guys to share in the chat or jump on camera and share with me here. But the number 5 is 5 online community engagement ideas. So I know we've seen quite a bit of experimentation and exciting type of events during the pandemic when everything was digital. So what were some of those like key big ideas or takeaways that you've had for engagement activations? Feel free to post them in the chat. We can read them out as well, or you're welcome to come on camera with me to talk about them. But some of the ones that I've seen that were great, PCMA did these during the course of the pandemic in 2020 and 21, but community conversations. I think PCMA National was hosting those monthly or bi-monthly. There were other organizations that were doing them, some of the chapters on a weekly basis or bi-weekly. And it really just gave a way for people to come and have conversations around a specific topic. So community conversations is a great community engagement idea. I've seen wine tastings, terrarium making, some of those fun. Oh, we have someone from Pittsburgh. So we're fully bi-coastal now, from New York to Pittsburgh to San Diego. Welcome, Kristen. Glad to have you. We're talking about community engagement ideas. So you're welcome to come on camera and join us. or post your ideas in the chat. So some that we've talked about, wine tastings. I even participated in a tequila tasting with a property based out of Mexico. That was really fun. I've seen flower arrangements, community conversations. We could also just do community forums where you're chatting, kind of like a Reddit thread, if you will. So that's another idea. Maybe not camera based because some people are shy, some of those introverts. So you're really just thinking about all the different things, webinars, fun activations like we talked about, the wine nights. There's a ton of different ways you could do that. I think we've seen some pretty creative ones over the years now. And then number 6, what will your audience gain from that engagement? Now, some of that gain can literally just be networking. It could just be having fun, a break in all of the seriousness that goes on in the world. It could be a number of different things. Oh, we have a question. I may have missed this, but will you share the template? Yes, the template's already shared. So if you scroll down just below the video, you'll see a download link to this PDF where you can download it directly to your computer. And it will be available to access after this as well, so you can always come back to it. Great question, Diane. Thanks for joining us. So number 6, what do you hope to gain? Again, it could be knowledge, peer-to-peer sharing knowledge. It could be resource sharing, white papers, ebooks, those kind of things. It could also just be to have a little fun. That's okay to have an objective where, we're breaking up all of maybe the heaviness or the education side, and you just want to have a space for people to connect, engage, and network and have a good time. Virtual happy hours are very popular still. So a couple of different ideas there. And then we're talking about tailwinds next. So 5 outcomes to gain. So what do they hope to gain from this? Maybe it's a new connection. Maybe it's an ebook to help them think through a hybrid strategy. That's one of the ebooks that offers. It could be a number of different things. So feel free to post in the chat. We've got participant from Barbara, creates a sense of belonging, spirit of community. I think we all see that now coming out of this pandemic, that community doesn't have to be based on your geography anymore because we have great technology. I think a lot of people are using that to their advantage to build communities and small cohort networks, all important. Fostering a more fulfilling experience, easily expand an individual's network. I love those. Those are all great things to gain. I think with the help of technology, I have gained and expanded my network that I probably wouldn't have done prior to the COVID pandemic, honestly. I now have connections across the country. I saw Belle on here and my friends Eric in Minnesota, Mary in New York. I mean, these are all people that I have met within the last year, thanks to leveraging technology to sort of expand my network and my reach of people that I get to work with. So that's exciting. Anybody else want to share? Feel free to post in the chat. You're welcome to join on camera as well. But then once you've kind of identified what you hope they will gain, then we dig a little bit deeper into that and what has helped grow, engage, and retain in the past. So we all have those sacred cows that maybe need to go out to pasture, but some of those sacred cows have really worked in the past. So maybe they need a little tweak here or an adjustment there to stay relevant with the time. But think back to what was really successful. Why was that successful? Did that help in growing your network, or did it help retain that network? Thinking maybe a membership organization. What are some of those recruitment tools that you use that were really successful that maybe can then be reimagined into a virtual space? Anybody else want to join the conversation? Feel free to jump in the chat. So then next up, we're talking about challenges we have to overcome. And I think these next couple are some of the most important, because we could dream up a big plan and imagine all these really fun activations. But if we don't understand the hurdles that we might have to overcome to be able to execute on said plan, then we're really planning to fail at that point, because we have to be able to execute on all of the big ideas that we have. So 5 challenges to overcome. Maybe like a lot of organizations, you have a board that is resistant to change and they don't really love to do a lot of new ideas all at once. That could be a challenge to overcome. Maybe it's a resource allocation. I know a lot of event teams and membership teams are small but mighty. And so maybe that's something you have to overcome is you don't know if you have the manpower to be able to execute on some of these ideas. Maybe you need to bring in a temp or an intern or some part-time help to be able to get some of these projects off the ground. If there's any other ideas, feel free to dump them in the chat. But some other ideas might be funding. Maybe there's a fundraising component or a sponsorship component to be able to execute on these ideas. Those are just a couple that come top of mind of things that I've had to overcome in the past. I certainly have had my fair share of technology resistant supervisors in the past that didn't necessarily love the idea of technology creeping into face-to-face meetings, but I think that we all learned that that's an important piece that we have to embrace. But having bosses that are resistant to change can always be one of the barriers to overcome. And our own personal resistance. Great point, Annette. I certainly have challenges in that. I love being a disruptor, but sometimes I have my own reservations to disruption. So getting over your own personal fears of change, I think, are important. Changing perception is a challenge. Great point, Kristen. I think that is something a lot of us are facing right now in this digital transformation of events. There are a lot of people that just keep saying, I hear over and over again, I can't wait to go back to in person. I can't wait to go back to the way it was. And I think that those days are potentially behind us, and changing that perception to keep moving forward and embracing the new now is certainly a hurdle that we have to overcome. Nimbleness is key during this time. Yes, Barbara, absolutely. Every single day, our world is changing, it seems. One day is not consistent to the next. 1 week is certainly not consistent to the next. So being nimble and flexible and, God, I say it, be able to pivot in the stages leading up to your events or your activations or your engagements is certainly an asset that I think we all should be embracing. Wow, great suggestions, guys. Keep the comments coming. And then what obstacles have you faced in the past, or what have you overcome in the past? So I think a lot of the things we've already mentioned are some organizations and individuals have overcome them in the past. Certainly, changing perceptions. I think technology is finally catching up to where we've always wanted it to be. So that's something that we've certainly overcome. I think a lot of us have learned to be more nimble in our lives, personally and professionally. I think the pandemic kind of gave us a wake-up call in that space. Mary said the ability to look at different outlooks that the community may present. I think that's the most important part of community, is having diverse thought. So Mary, I think you're spot on with that. That part of community is challenging our own ideas and perceptions and changing them, like Kristen has mentioned. That's a hard space to be sometimes, to hear things that you don't want to. But I think it's very important for community growth and engagement. Having a respectful space for diverse thoughts and sometimes hard conversations that are really advancing society and the community as a whole. So all great points. What are some other obstacles maybe that we've overcome in the past? I think staffing challenges as organizations grow. That's a challenge that you can certainly overcome. Sponsorship opportunities, I think, is another area that a lot of us have overcome, of getting creative in how we engage with our sponsors and exhibitors. Barbara just chimed in with virtual attendees have grown in their ability to effectively engage digitally. 100%, Barbara. I think that is certainly an obstacle we've overcome in the past. I think at the start of 2020, when all of us were sort of forced to go digitally with events and engagement, we weren't really sure what to do or what to expect. And now I think we all sort of have found our own groove and rhythm with how we'd like to engage. And we're much more open to engaging online and digital in digital spaces than I think we were in the past. I think we kind of, myself included, was restricted to sort of FaceTiming or posting in groups on Reddit or Facebook, using Instagram to share what I was doing. But I think now I have a different approach and am much more comfortable engaging with people online than I think I have been in the past. So I personally am hitting on a lot of the challenges you guys talked about: changing perspective, being more nimble, looking at different outcomes of my communities. So all fabulous points. And the importance of this is really, again, thinking through how far you've already come and how much further you have to go. I think those are important things to think about when you're identifying some of those obstacles, that maybe there's an obstacle that you think that's still there that maybe you've already overcome once and you could do it again. Barbara just added, challenges continue in the area of developing engagement opportunities for industry that provides good ROI. Big pain point still here. Agreed, Barbara. I think a lot of us are still experimenting with the ideal engagement strategies for ROI, especially when it comes to our sponsors and exhibitors. I think pre-pandemic, pre-2020, putting a logo here or having someone speak there was, enough ROI for a lot of groups. And now we're asking to do more with less. And I think that means sitting down and getting creative with your sponsors. I think having a list of ideas and sponsorship opportunities, like a traditional prospectus, is important to have and is still needed. But I think we have to have deeper conversations with that. No more am I checking boxes off a list of, this is the menu, these are the things I want. Really getting creative and working with our exhibitors, sponsors, our communities to help them bring their objectives to life. I think it's a much larger conversation and sometimes harder conversation to have than we've had in the past. Great point, Barbara. I think we're experimenting and still figuring that out, but I know we're in a much better place 2 years than we were 2 years ago, for sure. Next up, we've got number 11, 12, and 13. And what is important about launch date, check-in points, and stage 1 is you can create a plan all you want, but if you're not putting hard deadlines around that, then what are you really working towards? Putting up those guardrails and having a definitive finish line is going to be one of the biggest factors to your success. What are you working towards? What are those hard dates that you need to achieve to be able to accomplish your goals and really build out this community engagement? Next up. So not only do we now sort of have a plan, we have some ideas, we know we've identified all of the obstacles that we might face in trying to execute on this plan. We need to figure out who's in the rocket ship with us, who's in your basket, who's in your corner, who's going to work with you on this. And maybe you have to bring in marketing. Maybe you have to bring in a membership team. Maybe you have an exhibit and sponsor sector of your organization. Those are all people that need to be involved in the planning from the beginning, because having buy-in from all your stakeholders is going to be key to the success. And maybe that's one of the obstacles you have to overcome, is getting everybody on the same page, getting buy-in from all those stakeholders to have that unified vision. And ultimately, that's why this flight plan exists, is to help you get buy-in from all of those stakeholders. But at a minimum, you have to just determine who should be on this ride with you, who's going on this journey, who plays a part in the success. And not only internally, but externally. Maybe you have an exhibit advisory board, maybe those members, or a customer advisory board. Are you getting buy-in from people who already know and love your brand? Maybe there's external companies like Juno that you need to onboard in the success of this. Maybe you need a technology partner or a production partner. What are some of those external stakeholders and resources that need to be part of your project plan? So identifying who should be in there is pretty key, but then also thinking about what is their role and having clear defined roles and responsibilities for all of those team members. Feel free to throw in the chat any other stakeholders, internal or external, of your organization that should be part of this. Marketing and communications are such key factors to a lot of what we do. So I personally would put them sort of top of my list in my flight plan and the things that I work on. But maybe it's your sales leadership. Maybe, again, it's a board of directors that needs to get bought in. Feel free to share in the chat. Those are just some that came to mind for me. And then the last couple things, these really just kind of help drive home this plan and put a bow on it. But what are 5 things you've learned through the course of, working with PCMA or any of the other organizations out there that can support your community vision? So one thing that I've certainly learned is consistency. I think the reason platforms like Reddit really thrive in a community space is because there's people always engaging and really always have something to address and connect with. So I think consistency is key to that. That's one thing that I've learned quite a bit. I think it's part of why we hear people say my event app didn't really exist beyond our annual meeting, because you're not giving people a reason to go back into that app. Mary just added transparency, especially in these constantly evolving times. Having clear communication and transparency from the organization really helps the community. Absolutely, Mary. I think all of us in today's day and age, especially, really want to feel a part of that community. And if there's not transparency there, then why do I exist? Why do I show up? Why am I a part of this? So I think, Mary, you're spot on. Transparency is very important. Barbara added, utilize influencers to support your mission or to inspire others to join the cause. That is a perfect example. And I think a great engagement piece is involving influencers in the space. I will be honest, when the term influencers kind of started hitting the market, I always have just equated it with, millennials on Instagram making money off of being an influencer. So it was kind of always had a bad taste in my mouth, that word. But I think I've really unlearned and relearned about that space. And I think influencers are very important. And it's more than just selling products on Instagram that I have learned myself, that influencers could be maybe key figures in the space that maybe you look for advice or really recommendations, and you believe in what they say. Mary says Megan's a meeting influencer. I'm not sure about that, but I would love to be considered one. I actually sent someone a note on LinkedIn yesterday with a connection, and said, you're a big influencer in my space. So thank you. I hope you'll accept my connection. So that's definitely a term that I have come around on. And I think it's really important, to Barbara's point, to include influencers in your space as part of your plan, because they definitely can help drive that consistency and transparency. Barbara says, maybe we give them a new name. Maybe so. I think I personally just have come around to the term that it means a lot more things now. Barbara also threw in trusted individuals in the space. Absolutely. If you're seeing the president or the CEO of your organization in there, that certainly is going to drive me to keep engaging and keep being in that space, because it's a trusted space and a trusted individual that I want to engage with. These are all great learning points. Wonderful. Last couple things here. Affirmations that will help you and others. I don't know if anyone else has certain mantras or affirmations that they read every day. Barbara's adding, not salespeople, those that can speak to the spirit and heart of an initiative and cause. Absolutely. I think authenticity is a word that we haven't used yet today, that speaks to kind of that. I don't want the used car salesman in there pitching me on ideas. I really want to be engaging and brainstorming and having an authentic experience with the brand. I think is really key to that. I think people who come across with passion and spirit, as Barbara said, are much more influential in their spaces than somebody who is reading a script or not coming across as authentic or genuine in their message. Letting people see your human side, your passion. Absolutely. We were just talking about some of the brands that are most successful out there have humanized their brand, and they have a face, and they really are mission-driven organizations. It's one of the things that has always attracted me to Juno, even before I worked with Juno and was just a customer, was really being that mission driven. They really believed in their brand and their people, more than just selling a product. They really wanted to be good stewards to the industry and the clients that they work with. So I think authenticity and humanizing your passion is really important to the success of any community. Great point, Barbara. Feel free to share any other mantras or affirmations. I think I don't necessarily have one myself. I do have my own routines where I get hyped for the day, doing power poses or whatever it is that works for you. I think those are just as important as those affirmations. But really, more than anything, affirmations are important because they really help you focus on that mission. They set you up for success, and it gives you sort of that guiding light, that end of the road view of why you're doing what you do and keeping you with your mission. And then everything else falls in line because you're achieving your goals and achieving that mission that you set out to have. And then last thing is the idea exchange. And this is just a space on the worksheet for you to type in others maybe that have supported your vision, ideas maybe that you've heard from today. We've kind of talked about a lot of different things, and thank you guys for engaging in the chat, because I think we've shared probably more than 10 ideas on how we could engage our communities and really consistency of keeping our communities engaged, which is half the battle. We not so much if you build it, they will come anymore. If you build it and engage them, they will stay, is sort of my new affirmation or mantra for community. We have to give people a reason to keep coming back and have their why, and why they're coming, why they're engaging with your mission, and really, why are you serving them? That's sort of why we all exist. Annette said, an attitude of gratitude for the work. The opportunities at hand go a long way on days where the challenges keep coming. Absolutely. I think that's the most important part of having a why or a mission-driven organization. I certainly remind myself of that when the days are challenging or the hours get long. I definitely remembered that when in my meeting planning days, when you're working 18 hours on your feet, you're running around dealing with headache after headache, but then you see people sitting in a session having that aha moment, or seeing someone standing in line for coffee and finding that great next connection that might change their career or their life. That's why we do what we do. And it always, brought me back of that attitude of gratitude of why we do it and why the long hours and the challenges are worth it, because we're all working towards the same goal, the same mission, and we have a plan to get there. So we have about a minute left. I really want to thank you guys for joining us today while we sort of talk through mission, a plan to get there, who needs to be in your rocket ship with you to take your organization and your communities to the next level. Again, you can download the flight plan that we've walked through today just below this video screen. So you can have it and take this back to your organizations and your teams and really work on your own plan and create a flight plan for your community success. I'll be around. If you guys have questions, feel free to throw them in here. But thanks for joining today, and I can't wait to see the flight plans that you guys create. Have a great day.